Here at SMRS, we're an employer marketing business, so we are responsible for working with organisations of all different shapes and sizes to help them to develop their employer brands. Once we've developed those employer brands, we also work with organisations to get you to the right position in terms of being able to attract the people that you need, whether they're very difficult to find people or they're easier to find people, and also to help you to keep the people that you have in your business by using your employer brand effectively to engage. There are all different types of organisations who are interested in developing their employer brands. It's not just something that is for big organisations. We've worked with a lot of charities as well, and a lot of public sector organisations more recently. A lot of organisations say they don't have an employer brand, and every organisation already has an employer brand. The idea is that you may not be doing everything you can to articulate it properly to people. You might not be clear on what you want to say to people, and you might be getting lots and lots of different opinions within your own organisation of what people think and feel about working for you. So when we talk about employer branding, we basically see an employer brand as what people think and feel about you as an employer and what it is like to work for you. I think what's interesting as well is people want all different things from you as employers, but there's a lot of research that's been done that pulls together some of the key themes, and I just wanted to touch on what a few of those key themes are today. This is from a piece of research by Glassdoor, and as you can see here, one of the main reasons that people will want out of an employer is the culture and values, and a type of culture that suits them and fits with them. So it's really important that when you're talking about what it's like to work for your organisation, that you talk a lot about the culture and how people will fit into that culture. Just a quick show of hands, does everyone have values within your organisation? Yeah. Do you all know what they are? Yeah? So already you've got some foundation of what it is like culturally to work in your organisation. The other thing that is so important when you are developing employer brands is the senior leadership within an organisation, because how an organisation is led is usually where that culture stems from. It's usually how it feels to work in that particular place comes from the top. So whilst we've maybe all thought that what's important when you're attracting people is what you pay, or increasingly work-life balance is becoming very important, but the three main things are, can you give people a long-term career? Will it be an organisation that they will fit into and feel at home in? And is it well-led and well-run? So when we look at employer branding, we always say how important it is to start with the business leaders of an organisation. And one of the things that we look to uncover at the start is to understand what underlies that culture. So we use this model in terms of understanding the vision of an organisation, what your mission is, your purpose, what you're there to achieve. And we see purpose as something that is also becoming increasingly important to candidates and employees, and also those values, to build up the story of what it is like to work for your particular organisation. We also see it as being incredibly important to involve your people. And the majority of the stories that you will see around employer branding has a really strong coverage and connection into the people who work for that particular company. And the reason for that is that ultimately brand ambassadors are very, very productive and positive for your organisation. So some of the facts and figures here, I particularly like the fact that an employee is believed to be twice as trustworthy as the CEO. So if people hear a story from another employee, they will believe it. So there's two sides to that. It's really important, firstly, that that story is authentic and true, but also that you're getting a lot of positive stories out there from your employees. Also, the content that's shared by employees receives 8 times more engagement than anything that a marketing team or a HR team or a CEO might put out there. So the use of brand ambassadors is something that we would highly encourage. Obviously, people move on from organisations as well, so it is important to keep refreshing the people that you involve in your employer brand all the time. One of the things that came out in the questions that people asked before today was that a lot of people, as we've seen in that poll as well, are on this journey for the first time, or they're starting to just develop their employer brand. We use this 6-step process, and each of these stages are milestones in developing the employer brand. What's really important though is this probably should be a circle, because an employer brand development never finishes really, because you keep moving, you keep changing as an organisation. So this particular structure is something that we've used for a while now, and it works really successfully for our clients. What's really important as well is when you get to share an employer brand, a lot of employer brands that we see start with attraction. And often we're working with resourcing teams, but it shouldn't just start there and end there. It's really important that an employer brand goes all the way around what we call this talent lifecycle, because each of those stages basically give people a connection into that employer brand. And I think from a recruitment perspective, if you can't keep the people that you've got, it just keeps creating more and more problems for you as resources to keep pulling more people in. So use your employer brand to try and keep the people you've got, not just attract more. So in terms of just a key summary, some of the main takeaways that I pulled out of this particular section were, it's really important to understand what you're already saying. So talk to people, audit what messages are going out at the moment for your employer brand. Involve your leaders from the start. Sometimes it might be something that gets started and you need to go back and get leadership engagement. So do make sure you don't avoid them, because what will happen is they'll come back and start changing things, I'm sure, at some point on the journey. So get them involved from the start. Engage all of those people who own different elements of this talent lifecycle as well in the employer brand, because the EVP and employer brand sits at the heart of everything. So if you've got leaders in your business who look after learning and development, talent management, get them involved from the beginning, and it works really effectively to do that. I think ultimately as well, one of the things that we often see is that the budget for an employer brand development project can start with resourcing, and it can start with attraction. But it's really important that it's seen not just as something that is for attraction, but is needed by all business areas. And budgeting can really help get people thinking about what they want from an employer brand as well.